Fluttershy shook her husband desperately. Discord, wake up! The Draconequest only snugged deeper into his pillow growled. Oh, Fluttershy, wake up! He cried out and rolled on him. She rolled him onto the floor. He stood up and glared at her. What the heck was that for? Screwball is gone! Fluttershy shrieked. His eyes widened. What do you mean gone? I went to wake her up for breakfast, but she wasn't in bed. He waved his paw and huffed. I'm pretty sure she just went to the bathroom or in the garden or something. I've looked everywhere. The bowling alley? Yes. The swimming pool? Yes. The ice cream room? Yes. The bouncy room? Yes. She's nowhere in the house. What if something horrible has happened to her? He chuckled on and patted her head. Don't get paranoid. Screwball's a big girl. Girl, honey, wherever she is, she could take care of herself. Discord! He sighed. All right, if it will ease your worry, I will look for her. He summoned a metal detector and scanned the ground. Fluttershy raised an eyebrow in action until the machine beeped. I got her scent. Follow me. Ha! Mothball exclaimed, taking Screwball's knight with his rook. The filly simply rolled her eyes and removed her queen with magic. The chess piece then suddenly came to life and sliced the rook with a marble sword. Checkmate, she said. Aw, man, the prince groaned. Don't feel bad. You're a pretty good fight. How did you get to be so good at this? My dad and I would play using our magic. Your dad has powers like you? I thought you were the only one. She bit her lip, not wanting to scare her friend off. I'm kind of unique for different reasons. I never knew hanging out could be so much fun. 5,000 sisters and brothers, you don't hang out with them? Well, they're not exactly my siblings. You see, he wasn't quite sure when Discord appeared between them, crushing the remaining chess pieces. Mothball jumped back in fright, and the Draconequest was crouched down on all fours. His fur was standing on his end, and his teeth were growling at the changeling. Step away from my daughter! He barked. Daddy, wait! Screwball protested. That's your dad? Mothball squealed. Fluttershy then emerged from the bushes, rushing towards her daughter. Screwball, thank goodness you're all right. Mom? Screwball uttered as her mother took her protectively in her arms. Fluttershy, I told you to stay put, Discord hissed. Now, let me take care of this pest. He was about to lash out when Chrysalis materialized in front of him. The Draconequest paused and returned to his defensive position. Chrysalis, he snarled. Discord, the queen chuckled. It's been a while, Dissy dear. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be living out in exile in the Changeling Forest? I bear no ill will. I was only fetching my son. I don't believe you've met Prince Mothball. Prince? Screwball repeated. Son? Discord snorted. Aren't all your changelings your children? Of course, with that said, the Queen Chrysalis just laughed proudly and showed off her son. Mothball is a special case. He is the heir to my throne. He then had a head shop in a great wave of love. She then looked between the Draconequest and the Pegasus, and her love radiating out of them was the way the queen never experienced. Such love emanated from the filly as well. What's this? She asked Dark outside. I've never fascinated your family, man, Discord. I think you all turned from the lore of chaos to a fluffy do-gooder as a gooey romance and itty-bitty wimpy Pegasus. Fluttershy shivered but stayed strong and pulled her daughter close to her. Discord held out her arm defensively. I think you should leave now, your majesty. And if you come anywhere near or your little hatchlings ever come near my family again, Chrysalis shrugged her shoulders. I wouldn't dream of it. Come on, son. She did not give him a choice as she picked him up with her mouth. Bye, he mouthed towards Screwball as his mother carried him away. Bye, the filly whispered sadly in return. When they returned to the castle, Screwball gave her parents a nervous smile and wavered as they glared down at her. What do you think you were doing? Her father bellowed. The filly drew a circle in her hoof. I was. You know you're not supposed to go to the Everfree Forest alone, her mother snapped. You could have gotten killed. I'm not a baby, Mom. I go out there all the time. She covered her mouth as her secret was spilled. What? Fluttershy screeched. I don't think you know the fact that out in the forest was the issue here, Discord grunted. What were you doing out there with the changeling? I don't understand, Screwball said. What is a changeling? A changeling is a heartless, soulless monster that takes a form from the ones you feed off of from your love for them, which is exactly what that Prince Hairball was doing to you. That would explain to me why he looked like Dinky at first, but he didn't seem so bad. He's a changeling, he spat venomously. He was feeding off your power, but after I found out who he was, he stayed, so he could satisfy his appetite. Don't you and your mom always say every creature has a heart? He roared and slammed his fist against the wall. Every creature but changelings. They have no hearts, literally. He opened his chest, frightening Screwball by showing nothing inside. They're born without hearts. They're hollow, no hearts, no compassion, no morals, no soul. Discord, close that up, Fluttershy commanded. You're scaring our child. He groaned and shut the lid. Sorry for the dramatics, but you get the picture. Changelings are cruel, vicious, and cunning. And most of the changelings you could have encountered, it had to be the Queen's favorite son, Screwball muttered. He was just a kid, Screwball muttered. That doesn't matter. All changelings are the same. Fluttershy then crossed her hooves. You sound so sure. How do you know Chrysalis? He sighed. Sometime during my 3 years of exile, Chrysalis told me about her plot against Canterlot and asked me to join her. And she said if I succeeded, I would be free to spread my chaos. I rejected her, of course, but not only because I think the plan was lousy, but I was a solo act. She narrowed his eyes at him. Is that all? Well, we made a couple of times over the centuries, but you know how old as she is as I am. She stayed clear of me, though. I did not want her love to feed. Why did you... He then paused and then caught a jealous rage in her eye. What? Did you? He burst out laughing. You fought me and Chrysalis? He ruffled his wife's hair. Oh, you really were paranoid, my dear. You're the only mare who's ever caught my eye. He then kissed her in desperation. Okay? Fluttershy sighed. Okay, and as for you, young lady... Screwball hung her head. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disobey you. I didn't know Mothball was a changeling. And we were just having so much fun and... She closed her eyes. I deserve whatever punishment you have for me. Her parents looked at each other and made a silent agreement and nodded. You're grounded for a week, Discord stated. It means you're not allowed to leave the house with the exception of school, Fluttershy clarified. No friends over, no sweets. Now, honey, let's not go overboard. Need to I remind you of the first rule of the hunt, Chrysalis hollered, shaking her green palace with that changelings consider their hive. It wasn't my fault. Fault, Prince Mothball insisted. She used her magic to get rid of my disguise. I didn't know that since she wasn't a unicorn. She was just a filly. Still, you disobeyed me. The prince then cowered, fearing that she was going to strike him, but the queen took a deep breath, calming herself down. Your hunt was not completely successful, however. Because of your carelessness, we now know that Discord is married, and he has a daughter at that. Mother, Mothball stammered, may if I ask, who is Discord? Discord is the Lord of Chaos, or he was until he was weakened by the love of the female. Be grateful that you don't have a heart, son. We cannot survive without the existence of love. It's what gives us power. Feeling love, on the other hand. It will only lead you to your downfall, and as if it was for my old friend. What are you talking about? What did you learn about this girl? He pondered. Her name is Screwball. She's very powerful. How powerful? Like, really powerful. She's incredible. She turned the water into this thing called chocolate milk. You should try it, Mother. It's awesome. She changed me back and was just yelling at me. She just made these things called chess pieces move. The queen mused, rubbing her chin. A splitting image of her father, no doubt. She then smiled and a plan formed in her mind. This chaotic little brat should be used to us. Or she could be a use to us, to be honest. Miss Mother, Mothball gasped. Are you going to hurt her? Indeed not. Not yet, anyway. She turned to her son. I want you to find out everything you can about this Screwball. You seem to gain her trust. But I don't understand. What are you? As long as Discord is thriving with power, it's on Equestria's good side. I cannot make the attack. For centuries, we have complied with Equestria's throne, and I've been searching for his weakness, until I have assumed that this creature has to be heartless as we are. But now we have something he cares about. 2 things to be exact. He can use his precious little family against him, and we'll take her rightful place as the dominant wrath of Equestria. Prince Mothball stared at his mother, as she cackled evilly. He did not want to hurt Screwball. She had been nice to him, and all of the other changelings represented him, even his own age, because he was next in line, and they were not. He had expected the ponies to run at the sight of him, but as he'd ever been discovered, but this filly was unafraid, and while she had been curious, she had treated him like if she was nothing but an unusual, Now he understood the reason after all seeing her father. She must hate him now from what she was still. But he could not help but thinking about her. Her voice, her laughter, her magic, her eyes, her hair, and her enchanting hypnotic eyes. He felt an urge pounding in his chest again. What's that? He must be getting sick or something. Do you want to try apple bucking again? Cinnamon Stick suggested. Uh-huh, Apple Blossom said, shaking her head. Not after what happened last time. I couldn't feel my legs for a week. You smell nice, whispered Thunder Dash, who had been standing right behind her. I mean, you're a teacher like your mom. She scratched her head. I haven't thought of that. You'll need some sort of practice, said Lightning Dash. Well, we could play school, Dinky exclaimed. Screwball and her friends were on the Cinnamon Stick and Apple Blossom's clubhouse, and they had been passed down to them after their Aunt Apple Bloom and all had been the Cutie Mark Crusaders at that one point, until Apple Blossom was the only blank flank left. But today they were going to fix that. They were not alone. Thunder and Lightning had brought their 4-year-old sister Prism, and she was just a splitting image of her mother from the wild rainbow to her crayon fur. And the only difference was her father's emerald eyes. Cinnamon Stick had brought his younger sister in Cinnamon Roll as well. The 7-year-old tan-coat platinum blonde had been tied up in a ponytail, and she was just eager to get her cutie mark, even though she had plenty of time ahead of her. The twins had also brought their family's pet tourist tank. While every pony pretended to be Apple Blossom's students, Screwball could not concentrate. She was just so thrilled, and she just had the chance of hanging out with her friends since the grounding, but her mind was still at the friend that she had lost. Prince Mothball had looked very sad and frightened when his mother took him away. She knew the changelings had no hearts, but what did they mean by no emotion? Her father had called them monsters, which applied to her. After all, neither of them she liked being called such a thing, as the prince did not look monstrous. Sure, he looked unusual, but the fact that she was fine. In fact, she was fascinated on how different and mysterious he was. Why did he had stayed? He had not ran off to find cover, but when he was blown, she remembered how he reacted to the manticore who appeared, and while he could have saved himself, he could have taken her with him. Of course, she had been no danger, but he had obviously thought otherwise and tried to pull it out of it, as if it was a heartless, her father said. Why would she have been bothered? Screwball, are you paying attention? Apple Blossom demanded, imitating her mother. Screwball looked at her thoughts. I'm sorry, guys. I'm distracted today. Did you eat some bad muffins for breakfast? Dinky asked. Well, she snorted in amusement. No, I just had a few things on my mind. Well, you better get those things out of your mind, Apple Blossom ordered, banging her stick on top of the map of Ponyville. We have a lesson here. Cut the ferretics for a moment, Blossom, said Lightning. Can't you see Screwball's having a crisis here? Maybe she has low blood sugar, Cinnamon Stick suggested. I made some rolls this morning, Cinnamon Roll announced. Don't be silly, said Thunder. Screwball eats nothing but cotton candy and chocolate milk. But she's never low on blood sugar. Is she sick? Prism asked. Now that's even sillier. Screwball's the princess of chaos, and she never gets sick. Yeah, Lightning groaned, rolling her eyes at her sister. Don't be an idiot, Prism, the tiny Pegasus gasped. I'll tell Mummy and Daddy you said a bad word. Idiot's not a bad word. Yeah, Thunder confirmed. A bad word would be... He was then cut off when his mouth was suddenly zipped closed. What kind of big brother are you? Screwball demanded. Thunder grumbled and unzipped his mouth. Just tell us what's wrong, Screwy, and we can stop arguing about it. She wasn't sure what to tell her friends, but she decided to do a test run. Do you guys know what a changeling is? Every pony gasped in horror, aside from Dinky and Apple Blossom. What's a changeling? The two asked together. They're shapeshifters, Lightning declared. They're evil, Thunder added. They're scary, Cinnamon Roll shivered, hiding behind her brother. They take the forms of the ones you love, Cinnamon Stick exclaimed. And they eat that love, Lightning finished. Like spaghetti, Prism shouted. Our mom battled one of those guys at the Flutter by Lily's parents' wedding, Thunder claimed, punching his hooves in the air. But they were not tough, Lightning grunted. But our mom was victorious. Our parents were there too, Cinnamon Stick reminded them. So were Screwball's mom, Aunt Twilight, Aunt Rarity, Aunt Pinky, but Mom and Prince Shining Armor and Princess Cadence defeated them at the end. Lightning rolled her eyes. Well, yeah, but Mom had fought them all hard and knocked them down, hundreds of them, Thunder added. Yeah, Prism cheered. Our mommy is awesome. Shut up, Prism, Lightning muttered. You said another bad word, I'm telling. What did you ask, Screwy? Cinnamon Stick inquired. Screwball now knew not to tell her friends, but while she trusted with them in her life, they could not understand. No reason, she lied. Did you hear something about the cinnamon rolls? As Prince Mothball headed towards his chamber, he heard the buzzing along with the changelings. How come that he gets to be a prince? He's just a brat. I served in this hive longer than he has. He's nothing special, except that he looks different. Talk about discrimination. At least that Her Majesty will do is pick a female for the heir. Maybe she would choose a queen that inherits the throne. Ha! We'll never need a king. We don't even need one now. The prince quickened his pace and pretended not to hear them. How come he gets a bigger room? His chamber was then just the second largest in the hive, next to the queen's. The others slept in hexagon alcoves, and all cleared up by 20 changelings. He could feel the glares of envy wherever he went. The worst part is that the prince has been an honor, which he never really wanted it. He was not clever or ambitious like his mother. Even the privilege of calling him his mother made him feel worried. She then showed him no tenderness. She did not even come to tuck him in or say good night. She was not the one to nurse him as a larva. That job went to the nurse changelings, although he had received special attention from them. He still had personal health that was ordered to look after him and no one else. Only this time, his mother wanted to see him and was to prepare him for the throne to tell the others of their plans. He did not understand that what made him so special. The others were right. He had just been unfortunate or misfortune of looking different. Chrysalis, the heir, should have been a girl to give birth to the changelings, and he had pointed this out to his mother and replied that he could worry about finding a queen later, but that was not something for a boy of the verge of adolescence to think about. As he crawled into bed, his mind was wandered to the filly he went over at least a week ago. He could not get over her head. The first time he saw her, he thought that she was pretty, and even though he was drenched in chocolate milk, her swirly curls with the wisps of purple and white clouds. Her fur was pink as the sky in sunset, and her eyes. Oh, he could not stop thinking about her enchanting lollipop eyes. His chest pounded again. What the heck's wrong with me? He shouted, slamming his sofa into his bed. She's just a stupid girl. He sighed in agony. No, she was not stupid. She was bravely faced the manticore, and had technically found a way to tame it. Although he still thought her of as crazy, but that just made him more interesting. Indeed, there was no other pony like her. Like she had said, she was one of the kind. And he had to use that to need to see her again, but not just because his mother asked him to find out more about her, but because he wanted to. It was clear that he wasn't going to get any sleep anyway. Sneaking out of the hive wasn't going to be simple. The guards at the exit and even at the hallways were infested with changelings, so Mothball took an instant fruit fly insects that were quite easy to things that changelings learned to transform into, and his small body, practically invisible to everyone in the hive, would still be able to slip out into the outside world. As Shining Armor and Caden's Kiss, Rainbow Dash performed the famous Sonic Rain Boom. Fluttershy had just finished telling her daughter the story of how the changeling invention in Canterlot, and Screwball had requested it, not knowing what to expect. Queen Chrysalis sounded like a quite evil mother from her mother's description. Tricking a stallion into marrying her was in prison, was a real bride, as well as Aunt Twilight, certainly was monstrous. As well as was her son that was anything like her. I hope it didn't scare you, Fluttershy said. Screwball then shook her head. No, Mom, but do you believe all changelings are heartless? The Pegasus smiled. I'm sure your father was just exaggerating. Of course, she shivered. After that incident in Canterlot, I almost believed him. Then again, I thought your father was a heartless monster before I got to know him. Hypocrite, the Floody huffed. Do you know why I went with your father? Because Equestria was in danger? Well, part of that, but it was because I accepted his deal. I went to Sakura for advice, and she told me that if I married Discord, there'd be great happiness with me in the future. And with that, all the lover wanted was some pony to love him. I came to him with belief that I could tame him, she chuckled. And I would never expected it would be the outcome of it. In fact, that it would be just as beautiful as a special little filly along the way. She leaned over and kissed her daughter in the forehead. Good night, my angel. I love you. I love you too, Mommy, Screwball said with a smile. Fluttershy then opened the music box on the side of the table. It had been a gift from from Discord on Screwball's 5th birthday. It played without the need of being cranked, an alternate version between Hush Now and Quiet Now and Daddy Discord. Fluttershy then clapped her hooves and turned off the lights. Hours later, the mother had departed. Screwball lay stayed awake in bed. The changeling prince would not leave her mind. She remembered on how hard she not to hear of chocolate milk or even plain before. But what kind of life he had not been lead after a taste of chocolate milk. Knowing that his diet answered the question, but still, 5,000 brothers and sisters, he did not know how to have fun. He must be lonely, she concluded, which was probably ridiculous if he had 5,000 playmates at home, unless he was like an outcast like me. Her thoughts were then interrupted by a rap at the window, and then she sat up and turned around the sound. A dark shadow was sitting on her window, and she slid the door cautiously and approached her. Her eyes widened as she saw the intruder. She lifted her window. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you," Prince Mothball whispered. "And have some more fun we had the other day?" Screwball then glanced around. "Are you crazy? What if my parents saw you? Why do you think I came over here after dark? So are you coming or what? If I don't want to come and have fun with you, how do I know you're not just going to suck my love like a vampire? I'll be careful, I promise. Besides, if I wanted your love, I wouldn't have come like this." Despite on how much she wanted to go with them, she had to be vigilant about it. There was a chance that her dad might have been right. She then sighed. "Okay, meet me at the chocolate milk lake in 15 minutes. The changeling brightened up. "Great, I'll see you." Screwball then shut the door and Mothball flew away. She grabbed her hat and before she put it on, she looked in the mirror and smoothed out her hair. Her hoof was on the doorknob when she thought it occurred to her. "Hold on one second." She opened the window again and flew off. It was much easier to catch the lake by a flight than on foot. Screwball then saw that Mothball had beaten her to it. "I'm glad you came," he said with a grin. "Don't get just so happy yet," Screwball warned. "I want to know what this is about." The prince sighed. "I guess your parents told you a lot about changelings, son." "Well, my mother told me about your parents." Curious, she sat down beside him. "What about them?" "Well, for starters, she told me that your dad was the Lord of Chaos and took over Equestria 3 times." "He's not like that anymore," Screwball insisted. "Not since he met my mom." "Yeah, and she said that too. Hey, how did that happen anyway?" "My parents, you mean?" "Well, yeah, don't take this the wrong way, but how did a pony fall in love with an evil spirit of chaos?" Screwball spiraled her in the grass. "Well, it's a funny story, really. The last time my dad tried to take over Equestria, he asked for a bride so he would stop his chaos. My mom was the only one brave enough to do it." She giggled. "I have heard that story many times, and they keep adding new things for resistance. My mother would told me tonight because she had thought of it that she could tame my daddy." Well, they were engaged for a very long time. Every night, Dad would ask Mom if she loved him, and they made a deal that if they were not to get married until she said yes, Dad said that this plan would have worked in reverse, and he was falling in love with her instead. One day he let her go. The prince blinked in astonishment. "But I thought you said that he was in love with her." "He was, and he did everything he could to please her. He gave her a comfortable bedroom and created a garden full of plants and animals, and even took her romantic dates, and you get the picture. But he knew that she wasn't completely happy, all because she wanted her freedom, so he gave it to her. A few days later, Mom realized how unhappy she was without Dad, so she went back to him. On the way, they ran into a pack of timber wolves, and Dad could hear her screams, and he saved her, and he brought her back to the castle, and they confessed their love for each other. But they weren't ready for marriage yet, and they didn't tie a knot until a year later. And then they had me." Mothball then listened the entire story silently, watching the fairy filly's excited glow as she told it. He stammered, "That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard." Screwball's cheeks then turned pinker. "You know, my dad seemed very scary at first, but he's real softy once you get to know him." He laughed nervously. "I think he'd prefer not to know me. So what is your dad like?" "Oh, well, you see, I don't exactly have a father." Screwball's smile was then wavered. "You never knew him?" She understood these things would happen, but her best friend never met her father, and all she knew about him that what he had been a doctor, an explorer of some sorts. "It's not that," Mothball explained. "The changeling race works like a hive. You know that a bee has a queen, right?" Screwball nodded. Cheerily had taught them about bees months ago. "Well, that's my mom. You probably know. She gives birth to all the changelings, the workers and soldiers, and the nurses and the drones. And that's why I say I have 5,000 brothers and sisters." "Wow," Screwball uttered. "I've always wondered what it would be like to be the only child." He then laughed. "I wouldn't give it that. Just because I have a lot of siblings, that doesn't mean I have one big happy family. Actually, most of them hate me. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a bit different from all the other changelings. She scooted closer to him. Because you're a prince? Well, yeah, and I mean, changelings don't usually look the way they do, and I don't have hair or pupils, for example. I'm more like bug than pony-like. When my mother saw that I was special, she made me the heir to the throne. You're special? What a coincidence! I'm special too, she blushed. Oh, I don't mean to brag, it's just a fact, Mothball giggled. I figured, but never met a half pony, half Draconiquus, half Draconici, or whatever it is before. She stifled a laugh. Good try. Your magic's really amazing, but I've never seen anything like that. Please, you should see my dad's. He could turn the entire orchard into an ice skating rink. Still, I bet if you looked up to the word special in the dictionary, there would be a picture of your face. I'm sure there will be too. He groaned. The only thing that made him special was I looked different. So, there's nothing wrong with being different. Well, what if there was the only reason I was a prince? Screwball jumped back as he suddenly raised his voice. Sorry, it just bugs me how every changeling intervenes me for being the queen's favorite possession I never deserved nor want. There was silence for a moment. Then Mothball suddenly felt something soft brushing against him. He looked down to see a pink hoof upon his black deformed one, and he then looked up at the filly that it belonged to, and as he did, his green eyes met her deep purple ones. The spiral seemed to be going on forever. If you don't want it, she whispered, you don't have to take it. Also, you're not the only one who is labeled as you are. I'm the daughter of Chaos, but that doesn't mean I'm going to take over Equestria one day. I'm also the daughter of Element of Kindness, but that doesn't mean I'm Miss Nice Go to every pony. I'm just a bit of both, so that's something about me. He then stared at her for a long while, not breaking the contact for those infinite swirls. Why are you so nice to me, he asked, even know what I am. She then smiled at him. My parents taught me no matter how frightening one may appear, here every creature has a heart. He then pulled his hoof away and then turned back at her. Not changelings. Her smile disappeared, but then she looked up at the colt sympathetically. Is that true that you literally don't have a heart? He nodded. Why do you think we feed off love? With no heart to keep our blood pumping, we need the love to survive, and we're capable of feeding any love ourselves. He then turned to her gently and laid a hoof on his shoulder. I don't believe that. Mothball coldly flicked her hoof away. What do you want from me? She blinked. I want to be your friend. His head shot up and faced her again. Friend? She nodded. That's if you're okay with that, of course. The prince could not believe it. He never had a friend before. In fact, that this filly was so pretty, it was making the offer more astonishing. What else could he say? Other than sure? She then surprised him again by flinging her hooves around his neck. It took him a while to realize that she was hugging him, and he felt that his stomach was literally going to explode from the affection he was receiving. And what she was doing? Feeding off of her feelings of friendship? What was going to happen if it became more than that? He could drain from her magnificent powers, and was probably doing that right now. Screwball suddenly pulled away, her cheeks coloring in fashion, and the prince, who could not help but find him cute. She stuttered, want to swim? Mothball stared at her for a good long moment, and then shrugged. She smiled and retracted to touch the tape for the lake, transforming into clear water. The filly was still getting over the rush of his feeling sleek body. Even though it was impossible, she would have sworn at that moment that her head had been on his chest, and she had heard his heartbeat.